Welcome to the Hour of Judgment. I'm David Quinn, and alongside me is Kevin Solway, and this is part of a series of programs which are dedicated to those of you out there who love to think and uncover great truths. Tonight we are going to pick up where we left off last week and delve even more deeply into the subject of women. As I've said before in the past, the subject of women is incredibly important to come to grips with, because not only does it go to the very heart of human psychology, but it goes to the very heart of what is the spiritual path. Admittedly, it is a very difficult subject. It is profound and requires years of dedicated, honest thinking to make any headway at it. I would say, if pushed, that the subject of women is even more difficult to understand than understanding the nature of reality itself. And this probably explains why virtually everybody I meet has such fantastical delusions about women. I'd say there'd be very, very few people who have come to a thorough understanding of this subject, perhaps only half a dozen in history, and all of them have been men, which is no coincidence, since the understanding of women requires the masculine powers of penetrative analysis, honed and sharpened to a high degree, in combination with a burning desire for truth. So tonight, Kevin and I are going to harness our tremendous powers of reason upon this subject, and we'll be helped by a friend of ours, someone whom we've both known for years now, and who herself is capable of genuine thought. And Sue Hindmarsh. Hello, Sue.
Good evening. Good evening.
And Kevin, hello to you.
Hello.
Right, Sue, you were a feminist in a past life, in your earlier years. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. Well, I think it's better to begin by telling you why I was a feminist. Well, it was mainly due to boredom. Bored with the normal female roles I had lived or had encountered. I joined a women's group at the age of 23. I remember thinking at the time that being a feminist was really the highest a woman could go. It said to the world that you were political, direct, difficult, boundary pushing, passionate, strong, purposeful, and courageous. After 2 years of the rounds of rallies, forums, journal writing, petitions, lobbying governments, I left. By then I knew that none of my ideas of what a feminist was were correct.
Well, you were part of a group, weren't you? Part
yes,
of the
WILF.
What's that, the Women's
International League for Peace and Freedom.
Right.
It was mainly a peace group, but it had feminist ideals behind it, backing up their dogma.
And while you were there, you sort of you fostered the normal feminist lines?
Oh, yes.
You believe that feminists...
Definitely.
And you, yeah.
Oh, I believe that women were better, were good, were the ones that had to take care of things.
Yeah. That's right.
I really believe that they were responsible human beings, and that they had to take more of a place in history, and that they hadn't been given an opportunity before. So, I went in very idealistic. Only trouble was that whilst I was there, it became very obvious to me in a very short period of time that really nobody else cared. Nobody else was really interested in any of these higher ideals that I had, which were not just saving the world, but changing basic principles in the world. So, you call me naive, which I was. I really believe these things. I believe that the women involved with the group had the same passion that I had. So I left because I realised that that wasn't the case. More importantly, that I was getting my sort of enthusiasm was getting drained by these women.
Can you describe a bit more about these women? I mean, what motivated them, do you think?
Right. Well, what motivated them? Well, like I said, what motivated me initially was boredom.
Yeah.
So what motivated them was also boredom. It's sort of a different lifestyle. Women always like to change their clothes. Okay. Well, women also like to change their lifestyles to either match their clothes or as a new accessory. So I was like that. I wanted something better. Only problem is that once I went to the highest, once I got to what I thought was the highest, feminism, there was nowhere else for me to go. I mean, I'd been everywhere else. I'd been, a wife, a mother, a girlfriend, a worker, a career-minded person, educated, I've been everywhere else, and so I thought feminism was it.
So feminism's changing all the time. It's in a constant state of evolution. Even today there are many thousands of different kinds of independent feminisms, that there's no one feminism, I keep on being told. So don't you think that perhaps feminism has evolved since the days that you were involved in it, and obviously it's grown up, it's become more mature, it knows what it is a lot more than when you were involved in it?
Well, no, not at all. It's absolutely impossible for feminism to evolve as you're speaking. If something's to evolve, it means it has to be attached to something. It means it has to, you have to actually value something to evolve.
Have a goal, I suppose.
Yeah, it has to have a goal, a purpose, purposefulness. Feminism has no purpose, no goals. Like I say, it's at bottom a variation on the same theme. So what you're seeing, you said you've observed that there's new faces in feminism, new colours, new designs, new patterns, new fashion. Well,
isn't the goal of feminism, correct me if I'm wrong, to do anything you like and be respected for it? Everywhere I look, I've tried for many years to come to a determination of what feminism is, and that's what it appears to me
That's
to
what
be.
Naomi Wolf says, isn't it? That's the highest virtue of the third wave of feminism, which is basically just modern feminism, is that it's continually changing.
And it's part of its goal is to continually change.
Yeah.
And also to do whatever you jolly well want to do and be respected for it as well. So is this a goal? Could this be accurately described as a goal?
Well, it couldn't be called evolution, could it? Because we've always known, men have always known for a long time, all through the centuries, that women love to change their mind. They actually value changing their opinions from day to day. There's a cartoon I saw the other day which said something like, "My wife's upstairs changing her mind." So it's like they're now valuing this, that what they've always had all their lives, all throughout the centuries. They're saying that this is the highest of the feminism. It's changing your mind.
Okay, now what's wrong with this? Is there anything wrong with changing your mind every day?
Well, there's a lot of things wrong with changing your mind every day if you actually are a person who values something. If you value, let's say you value feminism, because I don't say that nowadays that I'm really an ex-feminist. I say that I'm the only feminist, the only female feminist on the planet, because I say that women need to evolve. It's true, but they can't keep on the same track that they're going now. They can't keep on doing the same things that they're doing now. So it's not as if I don't actually think about women in the sense of longing for them, wanting them to change, but under the circumstances that the way that they are now, it's impossible for them to change. So when you talk about change in terms of sort of ordinary everyday women on the streets, whether they be feminists or not, I tell you that they're not changing, and that they never have changed.
Oh yes, but why do they need to change?
All right.
Isn't it men? Isn't it the rest of the world that has to change? Because women have been oppressed for thousands of years. They've been done many injustices.
Well,
shouldn't the rest of the world have to change and women just remain the way they are?
Well, first off, maybe we should clear up whether or not women have been oppressed or not. Okay. First off, let's look at the psychology of women. Don't you think that's a good place to start?
Yeah. Good start, yes.
Okay. All right. We look at what women are and we look at what men are. First, women, they are submissive. We know that. And we know that men are conquerors. They conquer, dominate. So now women, through their submission, it is a form of conquering. It's more hidden, it's true, and that's one of the most important things to remember, that it's hidden. Men, it's direct. You can see it. That's why people point fingers at men. Now, the thing is that by being hidden, we call them innocent. They're protected. But men aren't. Men, that's
victims,
why... Yeah.
Well, that's
women
right.
victims.
I just can't believe how men can believe that they're the oppressors, that women have been oppressed throughout the centuries. It's just a complete load of bunkum. Because, when you look at it, is that 99% of women have been reasonably happy with their roles. I mean, we've evolved as a species, men and women together, each have their own roles, and each sex has been relatively happy, reasonably happy with their roles. It's just only in the last century or two that women have decided, well, we want something else, and men have gone, oh, okay, and totally accommodated them. Changed the laws. Through the whole of last century, we've changed the whole of society to accommodate these new wishes of women.
Yeah, I have one sort of nagging doubt about this. This all sounds very reasonable, but this idea that women conquer by means of their submissiveness and their passivity, I don't know if I've ever met a woman who actually intelligently goes about doing that. I get the impression that women are basically victims of circumstance. They behave in the way that they've jolly well been brought up by their parents. So they're innocent, aren't they? Aren't they purely innocent in everything they do? And that we shouldn't expect women to be responsible for their actions. Should we be should we expect them to be responsible?
Well, it depends if they're actually conscious.
Yes,
are they
right.
conscious? This is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we expect men to be responsible achievers, whenever anything goes wrong we say that men are to blame. So are you saying that we should we treat women in the same way? Is this what you're asking?
Yes, well...
are women and men intrinsically the same in this way, or are they fundamentally different in this way?
Yes, that's right. Well, see, I think most women would claim that they are not responsible for what they do because they are victims. And because they are not responsible, we shouldn't treat them as being responsible. And responsibility anyway has no ultimate value. Responsibility is just a male egotistic vanity. Everybody should be the way women are, totally irresponsible, and being responsibly irresponsible, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Yeah.
Why should we strive to be anything more than what women are?
Well, I think the world would fall apart, wouldn't it? I mean, women can be who they are, which is this unconscious, irresponsible type thing, very much like a child. It's because men have built the framework. So there's a saying somewhere that men create the spaces for women to flow. So if there was none of this framework, then the flowing would just sort of drift off into complete equilibrium or nothingness. So it needs at least some people to actually be conscious and planning and rational.
Yeah, well, men create the spaces, as you say, for women to exist. It comes down to just this. How do women exist? What are they? Now, I've thought of it this way. If you take everything that a woman holds dear away from her, if you take away the kids, the husband, her clothes, her home, everything.
Career.
Okay. Career, yes, this is right, her education, all these things away from her, what have you got? Nothing. If you do the same to a man, if you take away his career, his car, whatever, he's still a man. There's still a man there. So it comes down to what exactly you're looking at. When you look at a woman, what is she? Now, is there something inside there, like a personality, a character, or is she just the stuff that she lives through, like the husband and the kids, and her lifestyle and career, whatever it may be, So, when we're talking about whether women can change or if we want them to develop, really it's a non-question.
I'm trying to look at things from the point of view of women, if you forgive me. It's who are more than 50% of the population, and I don't think women do see anything special in men. As far as most women are concerned, if men lose their job, for example, and they lose their woman, then the man becomes nothing. The woman, the man is a non-entity as far as women are concerned if he doesn't have these things, because that's obviously it's the way women think, and women assume that men are the same as women, basically. Also, there's this idea that women don't have consciousness. I think a lot of women would probably disagree on that, and the fact that they disagree, at least, would tend to imply that they do have some degree of consciousness, just by the fact that they're able to disagree with something.
It comes down to defining consciousness. So what do you mean by
okay. So
consciousness?
let's talk about consciousness.
Yeah.
And if it's the case that women don't have consciousness and men do have consciousness, then obviously there's no possible way for women to recognise the existence of consciousness in men if they don't have it themselves. So let's examine what consciousness actually is.
Yeah. Or this difference that, like you were saying, Sue, about the difference between a woman. A woman is nothing if everything's taken away from her, where the man has something more. So this is what we're getting down to, isn't it?
What is this something more? What is it?
What do you
Any
think,
ideas?
Sue?
Well, yes, I think that it's a striving, a valuing, a sense of himself. He, put it this way, he comes into the world and automatically he has to start making a way for himself. He doesn't just come in and become, his role set out for him. He has to actually strive to make a life for himself, make himself. So he actually values things. He has a rigorous life. He has to be certain about what he wants in life. He has to make sure that, when he takes on a wife or responsibilities, he's responsible for that to no end. If he wins something, he wins. He succeeds. If he fails, he dies. You do the same thing to a woman, like I say, if she is in a situation, say she's a top politician, and she succeeds or fails, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, because at bottom, she's still woman. So she doesn't lay her life on the line. She doesn't risk anything. At no time does a woman risk losing herself, because she's woman. She's everything. She's all over the place.
You wouldn't say this about Margaret Thatcher or something?
I would say this about any.
Oh, she's a
any
man,
woman.
surely.
I mean, if any woman is a man, and apart from yourself, of course, Sue, what about Margaret Thatcher? I mean, what percentage? I mean, I'm famous for saying that men are about 70% male and 30% female on average, and women are about 97% female and 3% male. What would the breakdown be, do you think, for Margaret Thatcher? Would you think she's 50% male?
No, I still say that she'd be in the lower reaches of 2, 3. Because maybe surely 5.
All
right. Well, what does it matter?
Yeah,
really,
very
really,
low, basically. Yeah.
But also, what does it matter? Because what you're seeing there isn't masculinity. What you're seeing there is femininity using masculine, aping a few masculine traits, and very few indeed, and not very well done either. The story is this, that a woman can use anything. She has everything at her disposal. A man can't do that, because he'd get picked on and be told, I beg your pardon, you can't do that. But a woman can use anything and get away with it. And she does it beautifully. She looks like everybody's mother or aunt or whatever. And she also is capable of, speaking in a masculine way. But what's behind it? What does she really risk? She ruined a whole country, and she still got away with it. There's something wrong there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to picture. If a real man actually behaved the way Margaret Thatcher did and dressed the way that she did, then he wouldn't be regarded as a very great man, would he?
Or if Margaret Thatcher was more manly, she wouldn't have made it to the top of the Tory party and all that sort of stuff.
That's an important point. Yeah.
So you seem to be saying, Sue, that that even if women appear to be masculine and do conquering and all that sort of stuff, you're saying that there's a difference. Even if the actions between men and women seem identical on the surface, there's some sort of difference, and that's to do with inner
life.
Yeah.
This consciousness we were talking about before.
So women are doing things basically without true consciousness of what they're doing. So even when women are being masculine, appearingly masculine, they're actually not conscious. They're not fully responsible for what they're doing. So they feel no need to be consistent in that behaviour. They can be masculine one moment and feminine the next, for example, with having no conscience about changing. So masculinity is just a sort of a fashion, really, or it's something to attract men's attention, perhaps.
Very much so. Yes, a new dress. Yes.
Was it Weininger said that if a woman does anything scientific or sort of masculine, it's because she's out to please a man, like her father or her husband or her son, perhaps.
Yeah, because
so there's no sort of pure motivation for knowledge, like from a woman.
So I suppose I know personally, if there's nothing masculine in a woman, there's nothing there. It's difficult to justify being attracted to such a woman if they have no noble masculine characteristics. So those women who can put on the appearance of some form of nobility, masculinity, actually gives a man a justification for.
Yes.
It's an interesting point, actually. I mean, you think of the way that men and women interact, like the men courting women. I mean, if the men have true respect for women, you know, like see a true soulmate, then it'd be inconceivable to see that these men treat women the way they do, you know, buy them flowers, try
Have sex with them,
compliment them all the time about their attire and all this sort of stuff. It's a form of actually disrespect. It's like it's saying that woman, you are nothing. That I can treat you in this fashion. You're
so easily flattered by my compliments. It actually means that you have no real substance.
No integrity.
Yeah. So a man, if a man met another man who he respected, he would never tell that man, "I love the way you've done your hair today."
That's right.
It would never occur to a man to treat another man like that.
Or persuade him by flowers.
Yeah. So it's funny that the very times when women feel honoured and feel that they're being respected by men, those are the very times that men are treating them with the utmost disrespect.
And vice versa. I mean, women do the same to men, you know, in their own way. You know, when they're stroking the male ego. I mean, that's just a total form of disrespect, you know.
That's right. Oh, yes.
So these whole games between the sexes, I mean, which everybody loves to be involved in. I'm told that feminism is one of the faults of modern feminism, is that it's lacking the sort of the sexual side of things, that we should discover our sexual natures and get, you know, being part of the whole games is, you know, thrilling. But they have a lot of consequences, least of which it doesn't encourage anything noble in either sex. You know.
Perhaps we can, speaking about nobility, perhaps we can move on to the subject of genius. Now, Otto Weininger, one of the greatest heroes of all time that very few people have ever heard of.
A German fellow at the end of last century.
German philosopher who actually committed suicide at the age of, some believe he was only 21 or 22. Wrote a marvellous book called Sex and Character, where he breaks down the human character into male and female components and talks about how different individuals are composed of these different male and female components. And he argues that masculinity is one and the same thing as genius. So a person is a genius to the degree that they are masculine. So that doesn't necessarily mean that all men are geniuses, because there's a certain threshold of masculinity above which a person can rightly call themselves a genius.
Or a man.
Or a true man. And he says that it is impossible for there to ever be a female genius. That's not to say that a woman can never be a genius, but the woman can never be female and be a genius at the same time. And he says there can never be a scientific genius, for example. So genius is not anything to do with the pettiness of ordinary human knowledge, of ordinary scientific knowledge, of emotions and feelings. These are things that everybody can do. Genius, the ultimate genius, has the whole of the universe inside himself. So he exists as a conscious individual entity, an atom in the universe, fully aware of himself and his own separateness, but at the same time as being entirely remotely separate from the entire universe, he contains the whole universe within himself, and therefore he knows everything about the entire universe for all time. You know, not in a scientific way.
Oh, that's right. That would count out Einstein. So he I mean, wasn't it Weininger who said that no scientific person can become a genius?
Exactly. So
that would count out Einstein.
Yeah, because Einstein never actually went beyond the finite scientific concepts.
Yeah. Einstein is very disappointing because he has a great brain, there's no doubt about it, discovering these theories of relativity. But I mean, what a foolish waste of life, you know, pursuing physics.
Yeah.
Instead of
Quarrelling with his wife.
well, that's right. Instead of trying to understand the nature of reality itself, the philosophic goal, he wasted it on this temporary, finite, imperfect knowledge. It's a tragic waste.
I think it was to actually impress his wife, to impress his women followers and the public in general.
That's right. I mean, as soon as you become a serious thinker, and want this ultimate knowledge, then the first people who will run away from you and won't have anything to do with you is women. So I mean, it's a real test of your love of thought, is that you can withstand this, that you can continue on pursuing truth, and having women everywhere and men despise you for it, and not they don't want to know you because you have this conscience. That's what is faith. That's what I think Jesus and other people mean by faith, is that you chase this knowledge and you in spite of all these worldly sufferings, the sufferings of the world.
Yeah, well, perhaps this is a very important subject, the subject of genius, and it relates to philosophy. And it's interesting that there have never been any female philosophers. Never, ever. I often hear people come up saying that the mothers of the Catholic Church are philosophers. But I think this is a very important topic to discuss.
We'll have some music, shall we?
Yeah, we'll have some music. America is famous actually for producing philosophers. We had Bob Dylan a couple of weeks ago, and this evening we've got Edie Brickell, who's ideally characterises female philosophy.
Edie. Can there be a female genius?
Absolutely impossible.
Why is that?
Well, to start with, you're talking about a creature, that is the female, that we've already ascertained that she is not conscious. Now, you have to be conscious. That's a prerequisite of genius. You have to be aware of the consequences of your actions. You have to understand that if you are passionate, longing for something, then you have to work towards it, that you have to curtail parts of your life. So you have to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. The thing is that women can't do that because there are no consequences, as far as they're concerned, to anything they do. Because if you're not conscious, that means you don't recognise anything that you do. You don't recognise the long-term consequences of what you do.
Well, women always say that the special thing about women, in fact, is that they are aware of the interrelationships between things in nature. So this is precisely what we're saying they don't have, is awareness of interrelationships. So what is the case? Is it the fact that they have an unconscious, their awareness of interrelationships is unconscious, and therefore it isn't real? Is that what we're saying?
Things arise and they respond. It's not. You really shouldn't even say it's responding.
So it's just the same as animals. The same as animals do. So animals are aware of the interrelationships in nature.
Yes.
And like we were saying on a previous program, wombats have a close connection with the earth. But it doesn't mean they're philosophers. And so I think, this is...
Weininger says that women have henids. Like men have thoughts, women have henids.
And what exactly are henids?
Well, they're sort of a pre-thought. They lack the clarity and penetration of a normal thought. They're more of a vague feeling or a sensation, but not a clear-cut concept. So this is the like. I look at women, and they seem so spontaneous and free and happy creatures.
Already geniuses.
Yeah, that's right. They're already wise, and they're close to Buddhahood. Like Buddhahood is the state of perfection. So they're like they're a finger snap away from this perfection, but because they aren't able to have real thoughts, henids, there might as well be an infinite gap
Well,
So
there is an infinite gap.
yes, so men who are more cumbersome and they're more hesitant and doubtful, like they're always sort of a bit more watchful and so forth. But they're nearer because they're able to clarify their
So
thoughts.
this would explain why all religious traditions say that women are incapable of becoming enlightened. For example, Jesus chose, not only was Jesus himself a man, but he chose for his main representatives 12 men, not a single woman amongst them. And this was supposed to be the Prince of Compassion. And he didn't choose a single woman among his 12 apostles. In Buddhism, it's said that it's absolutely impossible for a woman to become enlightened.
It's Nichiren, is that his name? Nichiren says it's more difficult for a woman to become a Buddha than a dried up seed sprout.
That's right, and it's not very easy for a dried up seed sprout to become a Buddha, is it?
Yeah.
But they do say though, I mean, I don't want to totally discourage women from any form of thinking. Buddhism teaches that if women become reborn as a man,
That's correct.
then they can advance along the path of truth.
So does Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas. You know, that wise old gospel that was rejected by the those political compilers of the New Testament. Wasn't it? What was that? His disciples said to Jesus, "Look, what are these women doing here? They're not worthy of life." And Jesus says, "Oh no, I will teach this woman to become a man, because it's only by becoming a male or a man that one can enter the kingdom of heaven." So there's a very much a consensus on this issue.
So this rebirth, it doesn't mean getting another body, obviously. I mean, the fact that Jesus says he can teach a woman to become a man, rebirth really means a change of mind. So a different outlook on the world is actually the same as a rebirth.
Different values, isn't it? Valuing truth.
It's actually valuing.
Yeah.
Yes, this is for both men and women, because it's not only women out there. A lot of men out there have such a strong female component, or more importantly, they're under the influence of women to such a high degree that they can't begin to even think about any of this sort of stuff. And so the whole point of starting to think means that you have to really separate yourself. You have to actually know what women are or what woman is, and then start to separate yourself from it. And that's a difficult thing, a very extremely difficult thing, because woman is absolutely everywhere in everything you do, from your job to your home life to the very way that you wear your clothes and clean your teeth. So
this, you must find it very difficult personally, being a woman in our society, which is one of probably the most ignorant, foolish society there's ever been in all history. People like to think that we're advancing. But personally, I think the quality of education in universities is lower than it has ever been in all recorded history. And you're a woman in this society who is saying that the masculine way is the only noble way to go.
Yes.
This must cause a lot of conflict in your own self.
Yes, constantly battling the feminine. In my own self. This is not just not talking about external matters, we're talking about inside me. That inside me there is woman, and every day I have to say to myself, no, I'm not going to let myself get dragged down into her. I'm not going to be passive and go into the dreamland that woman is. I mean, it's a wonderful place, really. I mean, everybody's experienced it. I just happen to have it right there, just on the tip of my mind all the time, saying, come on, just ignore everything, be happy, just go along with everything, go shopping, you'll be all right. Fall into the trap and I'm dead. See, this is the difference, because I know that if I fall into woman, I don't think it's possible at the moment, but anything's possible in the future, who knows. But at this moment I feel strong, and I feel that I'm going to stick with it. But this is the big difference. Now I know that if I let myself fall into woman, I'm gone, I'm dead, and I want to live. My goal is to live.
What about all the men though who don't have an awful lot of femininity in them? Maybe the 20 or 30% feminine, and yet who you wouldn't want to know them. I'm talking about the sort of people, a lot of the people who go to the pub, who just talk a load of absolute rubbish, get drunk, beat their wives up. You know, what can you say? They hardly deserve to live. You know, these men. They're not very a good example, are they? I mean, of manliness.
But there's still potential. This is the whole point. That within every man, there's more possibility within any man, born a male, than there is with any woman.
So there's a possibility for these men to see the light, so to speak, and within a few months they can be transformed into quite an upstanding individual.
Oh well, not so much that. Passing on the masculine traits to their children.
Perhaps
the masculine traits of striving and idealism.
At least having some sort of principles, even though the principle might be that of going to the pub and getting drunk.
Yes.
At least it's a principle,
yes.
And they've consciously arrived at that philosophy.
It's similar to the argument that men have created all the wars and all the environmental destruction and everything. So obviously, so the saying goes that being a man is a bad thing, But I'd say not the case. That even though men are doing these bad things, they are capable of doing good things. Just the fact that they are doing bad things, they're capable of doing good things.
That's right. Yeah. So the fact, the consciousness of badness, in a sense, automatically creates goodness as well. If there's one, there's also the other. Whereas women who have no conscious knowledge of either goodness or badness live in another world of dreaminess.
Yes, and this is interesting. I think this goes to the core of our evolution. Like the sexes have bipolarized, and they very much complement one another. So, I mean, women, and even in our enlightened times, of the 1995, women are brought up to be childlike, soft, non-doers, basically passive still, and men are still brought up to be doers, and they're brought up to be to believe that men are oppressors and evil type creatures.
Bad to the bone.
Yeah. So men have evolved to be wilder. They're more able to do things, but they're tethered. They're put under the spell of these concepts that they are more evil than women. Women are purer and more moral.
I think a good example would be this writer. What's her name? Demendenko? Is it? What's her first name? Helen Darville. Whatever.
We'll take it for that moment.
I mean, men are called liars. Men tell lies, and it's true because men consciously tell lies, and men are almost always totally conscious of the fact that they're telling a lie. And a man's consciousness is extremely complex. There are many different levels. There's many different levels of lies, but those lies are conscious. But when women lie, it's not the same thing, because women really believe in what they're saying. And a good example is that writer, Helen Darville, who the only way she was able to perpetrate a lie was to actually believe it herself. So she, in a sense, she has an illusion of appearing pure, innocent, because whereas a man consciously lies, a woman does so unconsciously. So it's like they always escape the responsibility through femininity.
That's right. Her whole life is a lie. You're talking there about Helen.
And every woman.
Every
basically.
Woman. This is right.
In what sense? I mean, if they're not conscious, how can they lie?
Well, the thing is that I say that their whole life is a lie. That is, that not the individual woman. I tell you that she doesn't lie by no means.
Well, what do you mean by lie?
What I mean is that, we say that woman.
It's something that appears to be something that it isn't. So in that sense, it's a like deception, or
deception is probably
an illusion. An illusion, perhaps.
An illusion.
Yes. Well, I think in Hinduism they call women avija, which means the embodiment of illusion. That's what woman is, and that ties in perfectly with what we're saying now. That everything that women appear to be, they're actually not.
Yes, I think we should actually stress that point, that what we're saying is not original. That it's been said by various wise men throughout the ages, like Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and the Buddhas and Jesus and so forth. All these people that are regarded as great geniuses, the greatest minds in history, and all to a T that they've come down on the woman and femininity. Now, it's argued that this is due to conditioning. You know, these men, great as they were, weren't able to escape the conditioning of their times. But, I mean, we're talking about the greatest geniuses here, who have uncovered, you know, what is ultimately real, sort of more or less liberated their minds from everything. It doesn't sound convincing to me that they be somehow trapped by women still.
What would you say to women who would say that, oh yeah, sure, there's all these great wise men like the Buddha and Lao Tzu and so on, but what they've experienced is only a masculine enlightenment. It's the enlightenment of the male mind. It's not the same thing as the enlightenment of the female mind. I mean, and men are very, very foolish, because of all the men there's ever been, there's only been a few men who've actually achieved this male enlightenment. But every woman, virtually every woman, experiences the female enlightenment. So who's got the best idea? You know, surely the women are the smart ones here.
What's this female enlightenment? What is it?
Well, do you want to have a crack at that one?
I'm lost there.
Yeah, I'm lost as well, but maybe that's the idea. It's just trying to confuse us, isn't it, somehow?
Well, that probably means some sort of childlike state of mind. Some sort of
total unconsciousness is regarded by women to be a form of enlightenment.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a going back into the womb. Yeah. This is what most feminism strives for.
Not so far back, infancy.
It's to go back to infancy. Oh, not so far back as the womb. Okay, thank you for correcting me. Whereas men want to go forward, as far away out from the womb, away from the mother's apron strings, and to conquer death itself, and to go beyond death and achieve immortality.
Well, ideally, some men. The real men. I mean,
to the degree that they're masculine.
This is the disappointing thing with most men, is that they are persuaded to keep their gaze towards the infancy. You know, like the whole thing of getting involved in a relationship and the comforts of all that sort of stuff. It's really crawling back to childhood. So they're not brought up. I mean, no one's encouraging them to actually go out and conquer death. I mean, nobody believes that sort of stuff anymore. It's just that's Middle Ages stuff. And you know, this is part of the whole feminisation of our society. It's becoming more this childhood experience, this mysticism and so forth. It's what it's regarded as the highest state, and it's falling right into women. I mean, this is what women.
Perhaps we should have a concrete example, because we've been talking about this difference between men being conscious on the one hand and women being unconscious. But how does this actually manifest in real life? Perhaps we should look at the example of love, the thing which most people value more than anything, and without which a woman's life would be nothing. Men can live without love because they have their computers and they have their money and their four-wheel drives and so on. But a woman's life is love and children and family. What's the relationship between love and genius, for example? Is there a relationship between love and intelligence? What does intelligence make of love? Is love real? Is it only for women? Is it possible for a man to love? Is a woman's love and a man's love the same thing? Any ideas on this?
Well, first, love. As far as women are concerned, women. It's absolutely impossible for women to love, to start with, because how they exist is through other people. So, you know, when they say that they love a child, or they love their husband, or they love their mother or father, they're actually what's actually happening is that they're using those people for their existence. It's only through those relationships do they actually exist. So, when a woman says that, you know, she has unconditional love for her child, don't believe her. What's actually happening? She's using that child as a new bangle, a way to enhance her position on the planet.
So this is why women spend so much time gossiping on the phone, because they wouldn't exist without that social contact. Yeah. And children just provide another form of social contact.
Yeah, another thing to talk about. Women love to talk, and as you say, it's their connection with the world. It makes them alive.
So it's impossible for a woman to have a mental connection. Everything with women has to be physical. Also, this is why women are value their bodies on the whole.
Touching
a whole lot more than men. And women feel violated a lot more with respect to their bodies than men do, whereas men feel violated when their mind has been violated. When a man's thoughts have
right. And an example of that is, of course, the sole idea of what women wear. So we're out in the town last night, weren't we, a bit? And
I remember well.
And there were sort of mini skirts and all this sort of stuff everywhere. Now, this, in my view, is a form of rape. It's a form of abuse, harassment, because it's you can't help. I'll try to avoid, but they're invading my mind. And so they're violating what I consider to be most precious, which is my mind. Whereas women say that their most precious thing is their vagina, and that being raped is something more significant than being bashed up because their vagina's being violated. Whereas each day, men are being violated with their mental processes.
But I don't think women can even conceive of having of a mind being violated. That they have no conception that a man's mind can be violated by what they do, and I think it's because they have no conception of mind.
That's correct.
They have no conception that a man has a mind, because they assume that men are the same as women. So every day they're out there raping men by the way they behave and the way they dress and the flashes of the eyes and the smile, and all the time they're raping, and they have no conception of what they're doing.
No, and in fact, they praise people like Madonna, who does this for a living, and it's easy to see that someone like Madonna hasn't thought about anything in her whole life. Doesn't give a damn about the consequences of how she lives. And this is the sort of the icon of the feminist movement at the moment. This is Madonna.
Yes, and it's the purpose in all women's lives, is to achieve this sort of, the best body, the most fashionable clothes. All the magazines are full of it. All the gossip columns are full of it. This is her every thought is concentrated on just this, the fashion. And there's no consequences to it. As far as she's concerned, if somebody hasn't got a mind, there definitely isn't going to be any consequences. So she just drifts in and out and of whatever fashion happens to be. And
it makes me laugh how you have all the different types of feminism today, and they're all totally incompatible with each other. And you have feminists changing their mind from week to week. Their basic outlook on life is changing, if not week to week, at least month to month. And when they're questioned about, how is it that you believe this last month and this month you believe this, and they say, oh well, we've progressed from there. We've advanced. Feminism's only a very new thing, and it's only been around for a few years, and that's a lot of rubbish. Feminism has been as old as the hills. It sort of comes up for a few years, the fashion dies out, it goes back down again. This happens periodically for thousands of years. So this feminism we're experiencing at the moment is nothing new whatsoever. But the fact that their view on life is changing from month to month means that we can't respect anything, and I mean anything, feminists say. Open the papers, read the articles. Complete and utter rubbish.
That's funny, isn't it? They praise this changing outlook, and then the next moment they're saying, what part of no don't you mean? Don't you understand as no? So they're saying that no means no over 2 consecutive moments. Must be the only thing that doesn't change within their minds, is this idea of no. Men know. They know that women are changing all the time. So
a woman does actually mean no at the time that she says no, but that only lasts for one moment. In the very next moment, the no can mean a yes, or the yes can mean a no, and my head's spinning just thinking about it.
Yes,
It makes life very difficult for at least for men who don't understand women. I must say that as I was growing up, I very foolishly imagined that all human beings were basically the same, and I knew I was a human being, and I thought, well, other people must be more or less the same as me. And I could not believe that women didn't have a consciousness. I couldn't believe that women were not intelligent. It took me a good 10 years, probably, of hard thinking for many hours every day, and having it proven to me through hard experience. 10 years to know with certainty what I had suspected when I was 10 years old, just from watching the women in my life, my mother and friends and so on. And it is the fact that women just simply do not think in the way that men think.
Well, I think it's very important to keep stressing this. I mean, it could be construed that we're out to be harsh with women, that we want to hurt them, but that's not the case.
No.
The whole point of this is to articulate the philosophic path. So now, we live in a world where the philosophic path is just totally meaningless. It doesn't even exist. So, and the biggest reason is this worship of the feminine. I mean, the reason why people don't search for truth is because they're obsessed with women. Both men and women are obsessed with women. It's sort of the centre of everybody's existence.
I'd like to say, on top of what I said previously, is that I'm not blaming women, and I don't think any of us are blaming women for what they are. There are causes for everything that happens on Earth. There are causes for women being like they are. And one of the main causes for women being like they are is men. Men are the moulding force that create women, and women only allow themselves to be shaped by men, genetically and psychologically. So if women are going to improve, and I regard women as like my daughters, and I'm speaking now as like a father, if women are going to be helped, then men have to start treating women with respect. And that means expecting women to be rational, not loving them, for example, not loving them in the emotional way. Sure, love women intellectually, respect them as the human beings that they may possibly become, human in the sense of being consciously reasoning beings, and then we can expect women to become more masculine. But until men actually change the way that they're treating women, it's not going to happen.
That's right. Yes, men have to be strong and consistent every day, and that way they set an example for women.
But when you have like the men of today, with the ponytails and the shaved faces, which make them look more and more like women, and the earrings, and the pink shirts and so on,
smiles,
and the smiles and the
talkativeness,
and the gossip, and the mobile phones. You can't. Women look at this and they think, well, there's no such thing as masculinity. It's hardly an example that they're setting us.
Anyway, we're nearing the end, but before we do, we'd just like to share a few quotes that we came up with the other day. Kevin and I sort of had a spare afternoon. So
we were saying how a man should never ever love a woman, and even more than that, he should certainly never marry.
Yes.
And so
we came up with the Book of Wife, which is going to be one of our epic productions, and I'll read out a few. What is the best teacher? Wife itself. Wisdom is gained through the experience of wife. We must strive to give our wives meaning. He was a good man, full of wife. Despair comes to those who think about wife. Happy is the man who leads a charmed wife. Marriage is a matter of wife and death. I am a man of principle. Whatever I do for wife. He sacrificed his wife for truth. The important thing is not to take wife seriously. The brave man laughs wife at the face.
Oh, David, these aren't funny. These are very, very serious.
Terrifying.
I'm breaking out in a sweat.
Having children was the highest point of my wife. The most evil thing a man can do is the taking of wife. The chances of there being an intelligent wife on other planets are exceedingly slim, based on current data available. Money is the essential ingredient for the enjoyment of wife. A bachelor is a man who is afraid of real wife. A bunch of flowers can provide a new lease on wife. I have sought the higher wife in vain. So these are a few. Yeah, they're classics. It's a rich scene.
What do you make of those? You didn't write any of those.
I wish I had.
No, there's an endless rich scene there. I think we can come up with quite a good book. But we'll have to go, I suppose.
Actually, if people want a copy of the Book of Wife, they can write to our address, which is P.O. Box 207, St Lucia 4067. That's P.O. Box 207, St Lucia 4067. Or if you just want to write to us about any subject.
Yeah. Just get to know us, we're here. Okay, so thanks, Sue. It was a pleasure talking.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting conversation.
Yeah, thanks for those, Dave.
Yep, and we'll be back next week. See you later.